Hi, good morning, everybody. I will not be talking about jewelry this morning, so I'm sorry if you thought I was going to be talking about charms and our latest additions to the great world of charms that is Pandora Jewelry. When I started the company here in Australia 2.5 years ago, I started at home in Sydney. I ran it out of my spare room for the first 6 months. We started to scale and grow the company and started to add people. Opened up in Auckland, opened up in Melbourne, moved to new premises in Chippendale, a warehouse that we've fitted out in Sydney as our head office. And we're going to finish this year with 30 people, nearly 3 million registered users in Australia and New Zealand, and it's scaling really, really fast. But we are lucky because we get to stand on the shoulders of a giant that is Pandora Radio, Pandora Internet Radio in the US. Actually, interestingly enough, in the US, they don't use the tag Internet Radio. They are just known as Pandora, a company that's been around for 15 years. We celebrate our 15th anniversary in September of this year. They're just known as Pandora. But of course, when I started the company here in Australia, I'd come out of technology, media. I spent the last 6 years before Pandora as the Chief Executive Officer of Fairfax Digital. People would look at me and they'd go, my God, really? Pandora Jewelry? Oh, we didn't see that coming, Jane. And so we had to add this tag, Internet Radio, to who we are in Australia. And as I said, the company's growing really, really fast. We were probably one of the last music streaming services in, although the number of music streaming services actually here varies greatly from week to week. They come, they go, new companies emerge, companies shut down or move out of the country. It is an incredibly volatile landscape for music streaming services. And so what I thought I'd attempt to do a little bit today is to sort of clarify the categories of music streaming to better help you to understand how they all work, and then talk a little bit about how Pandora fits into that landscape. And then finally, what we think is the great mission of our company. As I said, we're about to turn 15 years old. Our founder refers to us as a 100-year company. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we think the future is for Pandora and where we think the growth and the headroom in our business is that's going to take us to that century mark. I won't be around at that point. I'm 115 already, so I probably won't be with Pandora when they hit that anniversary, but I'll talk a little bit about that. So the music streaming landscape in Australia, varying reports from 17 players to I read in the Fin Review this week, 34 in Australia, and so it's quite crowded. When we identify the categories of music streaming, or any category in any particular industry, you look to the behaviour of the people who are consuming. You look to the consumers to identify categories. And in our case, we look at the listeners. How are they listening? How are they consuming music and other audio services? And so that gives us 3 categories of music streaming in Australia. The first category, the first group of mainly app-based services is what we call the aggregators. Now, an aggregator is exactly that. It's like a portal for music streaming services. They aggregate plenty of streams and products from around the world, and they offer them in one-stop shopping. Probably the most famous here is TuneIn Radio, which is rebroadcasting hundreds of thousands of music streams, radio broadcast streams from around the world. We're also seeing the rise of apps like Stitcher, Aha, Omni for a homegrown out of Brisbane, but they basically aggregate a whole bunch of stuff and offer it together. Unclear business model in this category, but a very interesting one to watch, particularly for the rise of the spoken word, which we can see now bubbling along in the landscape. These aggregators allow metadata-based searches for niche topics. I met John from TED, who's here earlier this morning. TED Talks is a great example of something that's transitioning really well to the audio world, and people can search on a topic. So watch the aggregators for the rise of the spoken word and for one-stop shopping, very popular with expats, for example. The second category is what we call the on-demand category. And again, the music is exactly that. It is on demand. The listeners in this category choose what they want to listen to. They are typically self-identified as music lovers. I am a music lover. I know what I want to listen to. This band, this catalogue, this back catalogue, this playlist. The on-demand category is the most crowded category of all. The players here are typically owned or part owned by the 3 major record labels around the world. They are seen as a digital distribution channel for the music of those labels and others around the world. This category, and probably Spotify, iTunes, we've got Deezer Audio, Rhapsody, Beats, the very crowded space here. Fantastic for people who identify as music lovers. Fantastic for people who know exactly what it is that they want to listen to. We call this the lean forward category. You lean forward, you program, you enjoy the music. Now the third category is streaming radio. And obviously this category is really where Pandora fits. We have the majority of that category at about 80% share. When you think about what radio is, there is no lower barrier to listening to music than walking into a room or sitting in a car, you push a button, music comes out. That's what the radio experience is. It's lean back listening, or passive listening as we call it. The people who listen to radio don't necessarily identify as music lovers. They like music in their life, but they don't necessarily strongly know what it is that they want to listen to. People who listen to radio are normally doing something at the same time. Driving a car, working in an office, preparing breakfast in the kitchen. So it's this lean back passive space, this space called radio, that Pandora is here to redefine. Our mission is to redefine terrestrial radio listening in Australia. And the way that we are doing that is that we promise to play only music you love. That's a big call. Well, we just play the music that you like, it's lean back, it's great, we just play that. How does that work? We go back 15 years to the original IP in the company, something called the Music Genome Project. The concepts in the Music Genome Project were way before their time. But basically, what our founder identified was that every single piece of music in the world can be described using 450 unique attributes. And those attributes describe everything, whether it's a nursery rhyme, a jingle, Viking rock, hip hop, pop, whatever the genre is, classical. These 450 attributes tell us what the music is. Instrumentation, all of the instruments, the tone, the voices, the melody, the timbre, all the categories that go into it. So what happens when we get a piece of music at Pandora is that it's listened to by a human being, a music analyst, minimum of 12 years of training in music in a specialist genre, typically from Juilliard, one of the biggest music schools around the world. They download that piece of music, they listen to it, and they tag the attributes onto that music. We only take, in that audition process, half of the music that we hear. There's a quality bar that needs to be maintained in the curated collection that is Pandora. So they tag that music and they ingest it into the genome, the music genome, the beating heart of what we do at Pandora. 15 years on, we are still collecting everything about a piece of music. The band, the artist, the composers, everything about that music is tagged and tracked in the genome. So then along comes a Pandora listener. 86% of our usage is on a mobile device. They download Pandora and they register and log in. That registration is a critical part of our business model. People who use Pandora are always logged in. They are assigned an identifier that follows them on any device that they want to listen to Pandora on. And again, the data collection behind that is part of powering our business model. Everything about the music, everything about the listener. To start Pandora, a Pandora station, you give us the name of one song, one genre, or one artist that you love. Now, for anybody who's using Pandora, a tip, the best place to start a Pandora station is from a song. And the reason it's a song is because when you look at the vast catalogues of musicians, Pink or Rolling Stones or whatever, they really cover many genres in that one catalogue, anything from a rock ballad through to a rock song or a pop influenced song. Give us a song to start with and we know the most about you. So when you give us the name of the song, we look straight to the metadata. We don't look at the song, we don't look at the artist. We don't look at popularity. We don't look at location, we just look at the music. We cue 70 songs based on the one that you told us that you love. You start listening to Pandora, and as you're listening to Pandora, you thumb, the user's thumb. We play a piece of music that you like, you thumb it up. We reshuffle the cue using the attributes that you've told us a little bit more about. You thumb down a song, that song goes away. We reshuffle the cue. And so over time, and there are people who have been curating their Pandora radio stations in the US for 8 years. Over time, and the use of the thumbs, we promise to play only the music that you love. Now, the second piece that powers radio is a very, very powerful part of what we do at Pandora. In that music genome that we talked about, 70% of the music is from an independent musician. They won't be spun on radio. They are not signed to the major labels. They find a home in Pandora, and we will spin them if we think you're going to like it. So when you're listening to Pandora, every 9 or 10 songs or so, we're going to play you a piece of music that you've never heard before. And a weird thing happens to us when we hear or discover things for the first time. So it feels a little bit familiar. It feels like something that you know about. God, I really like it. Oh, who is it? Who is it? Look at the device and it's, oh, never heard of them. I've never heard of that. Oh, I didn't know he sung that. When we as human beings discover something for the first time, we feel compelled to share it with another human being, another person that is in our network. The secret sauce of Pandora is personalization, playing music you love, and discovery, giving you that little seed that you have discovered something for the first time that you are enjoying. Personalization and discovery powers the growth of Pandora. Speaking about viral, people who download and start 2 stations in the first 7 days will, on average, refer 8 more people to the Pandora platform. So right now, we're adding anywhere between 20 and 30,000 registered users a week in Australia, and it's all done through word of mouth. Not strictly true, do a little bit of SEM, but primarily through word of mouth. People who grab their mate's phone and say to them, you must try this. That combination of being able to listen to music passively, and it's music I love, and I discover stuff. This is what is growing Pandora. And so where is it all going? We've talked a little bit about the listeners. I'm not going to talk about the proposition for advertisers today. We've got a great deal of our Melbourne team sitting down the back here, who we have 7 people, I think, now. We're about to move to new offices next week. We're really growing the team fast down here. And they're there to talk to you about the advertising opportunities on Pandora. Suffice to say that they are all data-based. When people ask me what kind of business I run, I tell them I run a data company. Pandora is in the business of data. Our product is music-led. So if you want to talk about that stuff and all the data-driven stuff that we do for advertisers, feel free to look up the team or invite me down. Invite me to come in and talk to you guys. I'm happy to do it. Hard to do in 20 minutes though, but happy to do it anytime. The last thing I wanted to talk about though was the music makers. Listeners, advertisers, music makers, the 3 core stakeholder groups of Pandora. Music's been a very, very interesting market, as Dan said, for quite some time with really, the business models are moving fast. The value in the value chain is moving up and down. It's been very, very volatile for a number of years. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about what we're doing with the music makers. As I said, our founder himself was a musician. He founded Pandora off the back of his role, which was writing original music for film scripts. And he would go and see people who were creating films in Los Angeles, and he would take a stack of CDs with him. And he'd play a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and he'd try and get into the head of the director or the producer to try to understand what it was. What does this music feel like? What does it sound like? What are you trying to say with your production? And that's how he identified these attributes and originally built the genome. He himself was a touring musician who couldn't make enough money out of doing what he loved. And so he was a manny by day, and he was a writer of music for films by night. But he essentially couldn't really make enough money doing what he loved. His mission when he began Pandora was really to serve the music makers. It's just taken us 15 years to get there. We needed to scale the company. 300 million registered users in the United States of Pandora. We needed to figure out how to make money. On the mobile phone is the place that we make money in the US. We monetize mobile better than anyone does in the US right now, including all the big companies that in fact we predate. Once we had those two levers, we could then turn our efforts to the music makers themselves. At the end of last year, we launched our first product for the music makers. It's called the Artist Marketing Platform, and it's where we expose the data in the genome to the musicians themselves for the first time. If you are a musician that's spinning music on Pandora, you can log into the Artist Marketing Platform to claim your identity. There's a verification process. We use Twitter or we do it ourselves. Once you've done that, you can then see the world of Pandora for your music. You can see which tracks are spinning, which albums, what do people thumb up, what do people thumb down, where are they? The heat maps of where fans are in Australia or New Zealand or the US. How old are they? What gender are they? Who do they think you're like? And that wealth of information inside of the Artist Marketing Platform is our mission to connect musicians, music makers, directly to their fans. Every fan in Pandora is ubiquitously logged in. We know who they are, where they are, what they like. We have the email address. And so the artists now have the ability to see their world. Just after I started the job at Pandora, I was walking through Burke Street Mall down here, flat shoes, racing between meetings, trying to start this company. And I don't know how it is that you get to play in Burke Street Mall, but the buskers there are just phenomenal. There was an amazing one there last night, a young girl called Tash. Anyway, there's this band there playing in Burke Street Mall. I'm racing through and I thought, God, I like that music. I've got a bit of time. So I stood at the back of the crowd, 3 young boys playing unique, original music. They weren't doing covers, they were singing original songs. God, I really like this, a little bit Counting Crows, a little bit this, a little bit that, I kind of like it. I thought, I'm going to see if they know Pandora, not the jewelry company. And so I waited at the back of the crowd with my business card in my hand and I edged forward while they were playing. It was one of the biggest cougar moments of my life. Edging forward with my card, edging forward. God, I'm embarrassed. They took a break. So I boldly walked up and I said, oh, hi. My name's Jane. I work for a company called Pandora Internet Radio. I'm just wondering if you've heard of us. It's like, yeah, no, whatever. So I said, listen, anyway, starting out here, big company in the US, just wondering if you'd like to have your music spun in Pandora. Oh, yeah, we'll give that a go. So he gave me a CD. I said, cheers, mate, and off I went. Took the CD, sent it over to the curation team in the US. Remember, there is the audition process. So the audition process happened, and these 4 original songs were deemed good enough to go into the genome. They were ingested into the genome, and they were spinning. And I looked for that artist not that long ago. And that little band from Burke Street Mall in Melbourne is now spinning in the world's largest streaming radio platform in the United States. And the last time I looked, they had nearly 75,000 fans, people that had thumbed up their music. I like it. And they can log in to the Artist Marketing Platform should they wish to tour the United States and find out where they should go, where are their fans, what should they play, who should they tour with. And as we continue to roll out the Artist Marketing Platform and its new functionality, increasingly they will be able to connect directly to that fan with their email address, sell a ticket, sell a t-shirt, sell a digital download, sell an exclusive performance, which we're starting to see the rise of in the US now. $300 for a performance via Skype or another mechanism in your living room at your 21st or whatever it is. So all of these new business models that are then enabled when you know the music and you know the fan. This is where Pandora sees its growth in the next 85 plus years. We announced recently a second product on top of the artist marketing platform, which we call the Artist Audio Message. And we've got a couple, it's in early beta now. Because we've got such a big group of users, we have a notion that we call the 1%ers. There is never a time in Pandora where we are not doing up to 50 or 60 A/B tests on 1% of our audience. So we always roll out new features to the 1%ers first. It could be any of you at any time. And then we're able to test and calibrate in real time new features or new options in Pandora. So we've got this new feature, the Artist Audio Message, rolling out to 1%ers now. And it's where we've got a musician who's doing this in Australia called Claude Hay. He's got quite a following. And Claude Hay has recorded a 15-second message. Hey, you're about to hear my new song. I played it on this guitar. It's made out of a baking tin that cost me $7. This is what my inspiration for that was. Thanks for being a fan. Music plays. As we move forward, that might be, we're playing a concert within 20 kilometres of your house. And then as we continue to scale and grow, the final part of the mission is where we bring it all together. Bands, brands, and fans. Where we take the fans, we connect them with a band, and it's free because we bring in a brand that is looking for a specific target market, an experience, a series of experiences, music that you love, fans that love me, I get a free concert, I'm launching my product. Bands, brands and fans is what we will grow into in Australia this year, where we bring all of those stakeholders together. So Pandora, nearly 15 years old, a 100-year company, and our founder says very clearly that where we're going is billions of people connected around the world listening to the music that they love. But really, what's in his heart is allowing musicians to make a living out of doing what they love. And that is what we're doing at Pandora in Australia and New Zealand. Thanks for your time.